Now, let's turn the spotlight to Sarah with her art talk on our very, very talented associate, Patricia Ventura from Mexico City.
Thanks, Jacques. Very well said. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Talk 140. Today, we are, as Jacques mentioned, we're continuing our discussion of our artist, Patricia Ventura, who also happens to work for SMA. A little refresher, Patricia lives and works in Mexico City and studied graphic design at Universidad de las Americas Cholula, Puebla. She's worked in various design areas as a freelancer and maker, but started training in the art of pottery at Escuela de Artesanías Instituto Nacional de Bellas Artes in 2009. So here's an image of Patricia's studio. Her studio is set up on the first level of a 1940s house and has a view of the patio on the left. There are various elements that make up her workspace that we can see here. For example, a Shimpo pottery wheel, a medium-sized kiln, a pug mill mixer, and a slab roller, among other tools. She has a designated area for storing her finished pieces, as well as clay, glazes, and other supplies. A space for cleaning tools is very important for washing hands and cleaning up any spilled clay or glaze, and several different work tables. Today, we're specifically delving into Patricia's work process for making tableware sets. So preparing clay from scratch can be a fun and rewarding process, but it can also be time-consuming and a little messy. As you can see here, it comes in powder form. So Patricia always wears protective gear to avoid silicosis, a lung disease caused by prolonged inhalation of crystalline silica dust. The next step involves mixing and wedging the clay. Wedging is a technique of kneading the clay in a specific way to remove any excess air bubbles to create a more uniform consistency. And a pug mill mixer is an electric mixer that makes that task easier. So once the clay is prepared, Patricia starts creating the design. Being a graphic designer is very helpful, especially when using tools such as Adobe Illustrator. This allows her to decide on the type of pieces she wants to make, such as plates, bowls, and cups. She usually makes her designs a little bigger because the pieces will lose water and shrink throughout the process. The clay that Patricia uses has a firing shrinkage of about 10%. So now it's time to prepare the ribs. Pottery ribs are used to shape and smooth the surface of the clay while it's still wet. They're used to create curves, angles, and other details on the surface of the clay. They can also be used to remove excess clay and to smooth out any imperfections on the surface. So Patricia makes hers from scratch from pine wood and smooths them with the help of a grinding disc, as seen in the middle. She also makes measuring tools for each shape, which imitate a Japanese tsukashi, which is a small measuring tool usually made of bamboo. So to begin shaping the clay, Patricia starts with a lump of clay called a bat, which is centered. It's centered on the wheel head and shaped into a cylinder by pressing it with her hands. She says, quote, "As the wheel spins, I use my fingers, hands, and various tools to shape the clay into the desired form, continuously checking that the size is consistent in every piece." The piece begins to take shape, and the next step involves refining the pieces with loop tools seen in the photo on the left to remove any excess clay and give the pieces proper feet. She usually checks the size of the shapes of a collection by putting plates on a stack, mouth to mouth and foot to foot, seen on the right. So the foot of a pottery piece is often designed to be sturdy and stable and may have a distinctive shape or texture. Once the pieces are completely dry, they'll go into the kiln for a bisque firing to make them hard so that they can withstand the glazing process. Then comes the fun part of mixing the glaze ingredients in the desired ratios. She usually uses the triaxial method when developing iterations of a glaze and different color hues. So glaze ingredients can include feldspar, kaolin, silica, colorants, and fluxes. The glaze must be applied evenly to the pottery surface, and the firing temperature depends on the type of glaze and the clay. But Patricia usually fires her pieces at 2,282 degrees Fahrenheit. Very hot, or cone 6. A cone is a small pyramidal shape made of ceramic material that is used to indicate when a certain temperature has been reached inside the kiln during the firing. So there's different types of cones, and each is designed to melt and bend at a specific temperature raise to let you know what temperature the kiln is at. So the firing process melts the glaze and fuses it onto the pottery surface, creating a glass-like surface. So the firing time for glaze in ceramics can depend on several factors, including type of clay being used, type of glaze, the size and thickness of the piece. But in general, glaze firing times can range from several hours to several days even. For Patricia's work, she usually fires a load for 10 to 12 hours. So the process involves heating the kiln to the desired temperature, and holding it at that temperature for a period of time, and then slowly cooling it down to room temperature. So this helps prevent cracking due to any rapid temperature changes. So the glaze firing cycle and cooling of the kiln may take up to 36 hours. And opening the kiln after firing your pieces can be an exciting and nerve-wracking moment, as you never really know how exactly your pieces turn out. So there's a few surprises that one might experience when opening the kiln. For example, color. The glazes you apply to your pieces may appear different after firing due to the chemical reactions that occur in the kiln. You may be surprised how vibrant or how muted the colors are. Texture is another one. Depending on the type of glaze used, the pieces may have a smooth or a textured surface, and the texture may be more pronounced or subdued than you thought. Size. Sometimes pieces can shrink or even expand during firing, so they may not be exactly the same size as you originally intended. And then cracks or imperfections. So unfortunately, there's always a chance that pieces may have cracked or developed other imperfections during firing. This can be a disappointing surprise, but it's also a learning opportunity to figure out what went wrong and how to improve for the next time. Overall, making tableware sets from scratch requires patience, attention to detail, and a willingness to learn new skills. However, the result can be beautiful, as we can see here, and very rewarding. Thank you so much to Patricia for giving us insight on her process of making her beautiful tableware sets and pottery.